Good evening and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained. I am DM Bloodworth, and as you can tell by the graphics, I'm going to be talking about Twilight 2000 RPG. Twilight 2000 was an RPG that was released by Game Designers Workshop back in 1984, and it's set in. It begins in Europe. As a matter of fact, that the characters start off in Poland, and it's a conflict built around the idea that the United States and its allies end up going to war with Russia and its allies, and the level of ordnance used during the war was yes, biological, chemical, and some limited nuclear capabilities were used on both sides, and so it's not quite a post-apocalyptic setting. It's kind of a during the apocalypse type setting, but I don't think the intention of the game's story is that the world is really going to come to its inevitable end with total global nuclear war. The player characters are kind of coming into the scene as you know it's kind of in some cases it's winding down, in other cases it's picking up. So it really depends on where where the GM and the player group tend to or wish to take the storyline. Let me just get this other light on here because that might help a little bit. So what I'm going to do for this video is something a little bit different. I have the PDF of the game, and I was going to go through just the player manual and explain the elements of this game, which I think make it give the game a lot of staying power. Now I know that there were new versions of the game. There was a Twilight 2000 second edition, and then I believe there's like a 2013. I'm going to just focus on the first edition of the game, and that I tend to gravitate towards playing the earliest editions of role-playing games. These were the games that I was playing as a teenager in the 1980s, and so I just have an affinity for them. So I'm going to go to the PDF, and so here you should be seeing the PDF, and so this is the cover, and we're just going to go through the play manual, and I'm just going to touch on a few key points here. Now, if you ever do a video like this and you see what I'm doing here, I have my PDF, and I leave this little section open to the XSplit, and that way I can shift over and just click on that and switch, just in case you ever do a presentation like this. I've also recently discovered that I can do a better, higher quality viewing with with watermarks. So if you include the watermark, XSplit lets you go to a higher resolution. So that's also what I'm doing here as well. I want to have some mouse discipline or mouse cursor discipline, so I have to think about that. So here's the contents of the player's manual. So you have here on the sidebar player's manual, and then its individual chapters. And so there's the introduction. I'll talk a little bit about that. Character creation, I'm going to, focus on that. A few little details here and there within the skill attributes and the time and travel. I could probably do a whole video on just skills, skills and attributes. Upkeep, I'm going to talk about that very briefly as well. And then I'm going to save the combat for a little bit later. I'll probably just, talk about a few of these things, but not in any great detail. So, and as I said, this is the 1984, copyrighted 1984, and Frank Chadwick is the primary designer. All right, so the introduction, it starts off with an introduction of, basically, the basics of the game. So the year is 2000. The year is 2000. So it's 5 years after the armies of the world had fought back and forth across an increasingly developed planet. Chemical weapons, biological agents, tactical and strategic nuclear weapons, every horror from the technological, cornucopia, as they say, for destruction was used. So the characters are actually coming in the year 2000. So the war has, been going on for, in some places, winding down, in some places picking up for the past 5 years. And so that's the context in which the characters are beginning the story, of their, I don't want to call it adventures. I want to talk about it as, as their, squad specific operations are concerned. Gameplay and, just the basics of, how it, what you do as a role playing, so if you're not familiar with these, they give you all the basics that you need to know as far as, what does the GM do? What are dice rolling conventions, weights and measures, because this is taking place in Europe. And so we Americans need to be, shown what the conversion is. And then players, what their role is as players. And here we start getting into the character generation. Now, one of the first things, I want to make, about this game. This game is authentic. And it's authentic in, a lot of the military aspects of this game. So they certainly did do, research, into a variety of things. And it's that authenticity that, really, really captures this game for me, and I'm sure for many others as well. I mean, when we look here and we look at just this, and I hope that you can see this clearly, this is the way that this is the way that you identify a unit. It's the headquarters, it's battalion, infantry division, then brigade, then, the type of infantry division or the larger umbrella of the infantry division, and then United States Army. So, and this is how, I mean, this one's pretty complex. It's giving every single layer, but this is how, we had written, unit designations, in the military. And so just little things like that are, give this game a lot of authenticity. Another thing that, really caught my attention, and, even though I didn't know this, but, 35, years ago when I played it, for the first time, I subsequently after, I played this game from 1984 to, I would say about 1987, 1989, somewhere around there. I entered the military in 1990. So even as a veteran, looking back at this game, I'm really looking back at it and saying, this really is authentic. This they really did do their homework. So looking back at it, I could see, wow, what this game was, what I didn't even know back when I was 17 years old playing this game, I know now looking back at it, that's why I had that connection to this. Attributes. I mean, one of the things that stands out to me is fitness. So if you look at fitness, you see as a measure of a character's strength in proportion to his size, together with his stature. It is used to determine his actual strength. Fitness is not used afterwards, and only the strength replaces as a basic attribute. But just the idea of fitness being a measurement of strength versus proportion and size, or stature, is a unique thing that, and it's a real, authentic way of, if you think about military fitness, That's what military fitness is. So unlike another role-playing game where it would just have strength, agility, dexterity, or whatever, they're using terminology here that is authentic. All right, so agility, constitution, stature, intelligence, and education. And I kind of like this as well because, you know, intelligence is the character's innate ability. So abstract reasoning, intelligence, and then education is basically their depth of knowledge. All right, and so they have that. So it's kind of like intelligence versus wisdom. Here they use the education. So you can, when you're creating a character, you can choose ahead of time. So before you make your rolls, you can choose to favor a number of attributes, and then an equal number of attributes must be slighted. And so you would roll 4d6 minus 4, then divide that by 2. And then if it's a favored attribute, you're going to split the difference between 20, the maximum, and 20 the maximum and what you actually rolled. And then slighted would be downward adjusted between 5 and the 5, which is the minimum, and the maximum of what you had rolled. So, but you have to make that decision ahead of time. So they say here that you make your rolls beforehand. They you know which ones you're sliding. They don't specifically say that you can't place the rolls in the attributes that you wish, or they don't make that, they don't disallow it either. So I guess it's up to the GM whether or not you have the people roll their attributes straight across the board, or you just slight certain ones and favor other ones, and then place them into the particular skill sets that you're looking to do. So character weight and load. Load is like an encumbrance rating, their throwing range. Military experience is another unique thing here. So the characters will actually roll for the amount of experience that they have. And that not only sets the time frame between 1995 and 2000 as to when they began in this storyline, but also it will relate to their combat experience and their coolness under fire. All right, which is right here, coolness under fire, and it will also contribute to their rank, their rads, their age. So the character starting point in the timeline has some fairly important aspects that it will impact. And so that's another, very interesting thing that this game does, and once again, very authentic. Moving on down, you choose your army, your nationality, your native language. Goes into Soviet languages, service branch and specialties, how you obtain skills. There's automatic skills. How do you buy skills? Buying languages, skill areas, low levels, high levels, specialty benefits, and so on. So all the things that we get into. Body combat damage. So we're talking about body combat damage. I think we're talking about like vehicle damage. Show your base hit numbers. Character has selected the skills he desires, then he determines his base hit numbers. Oh, so that's like his hit points. And then your body combat damage. All right. Equipment. And they go through. So skills and attributes. So it's a percentage-based system. So you'll have a percentage level, and then there's a difficulty level. So difficulty, while these are numerous shades of difficulty in all tasks, the game's purpose is that all tasks are broken down into 3 categories: difficult, average, and easy. All right, and so you will use your attribute scores and your skill levels to determine how well you perform on the different difficulty settings of the activity that you're trying to do. So time of day and travel, encounters, combat turns, travel times, the day, terrain and travel, so its effects on terrain and travel. So it does, the environment is a major obstacle in the game, and so it's not a lot of times in a lot of other RPGs, there's not a big focus on wilderness, or climate or weather conditions and everything. In this game, there is that opportunity to make that a major a major obstacle, for the players to overcome. Fatigue is another one, so sleep, rest, and hard work. All right, the effects of fatigue. So this can get very detailed in the system to make sure that, and I'll bring this up here, to make sure that your characters are going through a gaming experience that that is, again, I'm going to keep on throwing the word out there, is authentic, and we continue like food requirements. So in this, in this game, it's important that your characters are actually, maintaining their supply of, water and food, and, establishing times and when that's actually taking place. And then the GM is going to factor that in as part of the, as part of the player experience. All right. And, I certainly know the people that I'm looking to play with in this game, that's something that if I'm GMing, I'm going to put out to them that, we might have shorter scenarios so that we can include this level of detail, rather than having a kind of basic rules light, experience light kind of gameplay, and environment, but have a longer, more action spread out over, an adventure, type thing. So I want this to be, you know, um, I want this to be as, as authentic and, the just the player experience. I want them to be able to experience, this as much as they can, and really think, wow, that's what an 8 hour day is like in, the military, and it's only 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's that's the kind of, experience that I would like to convey to the players if I'm GMing, or it's certainly the type of experience that I would like to, go through if someone else is GMing the game for me. I go through coolness under fire here. I'm just scrolling as I ramble through. So orders of attack, body combat, again, they bring that up. I have not really dug through all of the rules and refamiliarized myself with the game yet. So that's something that I will be working on over the next, couple of weeks. And I'm hoping to get some kind of gameplay going, probably within the next month or so. I have some other things on my plate, but this is certainly my reading for the next couple of weeks. Direct fire, indirect fire. I talk about facing, so when you're on a vehicle, or just facing in general. So character facing is important. So indirect fire, calling in fire, hitting procedures, deviation, corrections to, calling in that fire, the accuracy, subsequent shots, tons and tons of detail. So throwing grenades, direct fire, deviation, anti-tank missiles, damage, and so on. So, and then I believe that's the end of this here before we go to referee's manual. This is the PDF. It kind of makes everything huge for certain pages. I think that's the end of, let's see. Yeah, so this is the referee's manual. I'm going to save that for a separate video. So we will go all the way back to the beginning again. So that's the player's manual. So, and we can switch back to the picture. Like I said, I'll click on here. And now I'm back there. So that's a quick preview of the, of the player's handbook or player's manual of the RPG Twilight 2000, first edition. And it's a game that I'm really excited to start planning on getting back into. I said I hope to play it, as a player, but I'm also open to GMing as well. So if you're interested in playing Twilight 2000, I'm looking to either create or join a new, Google Plus, Google Plus account or community for this, and we'll do some kind of gaming using that, using the G Plus community. Also, I have On-Screen Gaming, the Facebook community that's open to the public that you can join. And if you're interested in Twilight 2000, just click on this uploaded video when I put this on, on that location as well. And also here on YouTube, feel free to leave your comments, give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Share it if you want to share it with your other friends that might be interested in playing Twilight 2000. And I look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen sometime in the near future. You all have a good evening.